Now, let's look at another aspect on evaluating strategy or evaluating strategic options. Let's see how the 5 forces impact the 2 different strategies. Cost is one strategy, differentiation is another strategy. These are 2 broad strategic options into which all strategies will fall except for the focus strategies. Right. Now, how does the first force, let's say the entry of competitors, new entrants, the entry of competitors, ease of entry, how does that impact a company which is following the cost strategy? Now, remember, cost strategy means that the company is the lowest cost manufacturer of that particular product. Now, a new entrant, price competition, the company can meet price competition very, very easily because it is the lowest cost producer, right? Let's look at differentiation, right? And let's see a company following the differentiation type of strategy. How would it be impacted by this first force? Brand loyalty, in this case, would ensure that the customer does not switch to a new entrant, right? So, both cost as well as differentiation have guards against the first port of force. Now let's look at the second, substitutes. How does that impact cost-based strategy? A substitute becomes attractive if it's available at a lower price compared to what is available in the market today. If the company is following a cost-based strategy, then substitutes would find it very difficult to beat the price because the company is the lowest cost producer of its own type of product. Therefore, for a substitute to beat that price would be difficult. Let's look at differentiation. If the company is following a differentiation strategy, in this case, the company, by following a differentiation strategy, has built up customer loyalty. And customers are unlikely to switch to the substitute because of customer loyalty, right? So, here again you have a situation where the companies following both these kinds of strategies are protected against one of the port of forces. Then look at the third force. Suppose there is industry rivalry. Now, what is industry rivalry? Industry rivalry, it leads to price wars. If companies within the same industry start fighting intensely with one another, then it will lead to price wars. A company which is following the cost strategy can withstand a price war very well because it's producing at the lowest possible cost. Alternatively, if it's following a differentiation strategy, then again it can withstand price wars because it will not get into that price war at all. The company has such strong customer loyalty, there is so much brand loyalty that the company need not get into that price war at all. So, a company following the differentiation strategy is also protected against industry rivalry. Now, let's look at buyer power, right? What does buyer power mean? Buyer power means that the company's buyers are typically powerful buyers, either because as we saw in an earlier session, the company is small whereas the buyers are large, right? This could be one reason. Or it could be that there are many other competitors like the company, and the buyer has a choice of buying from several competitors. Whatever the case may be, the point is the buyer has a very high bargaining power. In that case, let's look at the company which is following the cost strategy. It can withstand a price war. See, buyer power, what would the buyer do? The buyer would induce companies to get into a price war. But this company, which is a cost-based company, can withstand a price war. But a differentiation-based company, if the buyer is a strong buyer, they would face a constraint. So, differentiation-based strategies will face a constraint if the buyer is a strong buyer and it has high buyer power. Let's look at supplier power. In the case of supplier power, what we are saying is that typically in that industry, the suppliers to that industry are powerful, either because the suppliers are big, the industry firms are small, or because the suppliers are few in number and therefore the industry firms do not have much choice. We saw this in the earlier session when we looked at the Porter forces. If supplier power is high and there is a company following the cost strategy, then it would face a constraint, because the cost strategy means that the company must also acquire its raw materials, its components at the minimum possible cost. And if the suppliers keep increasing that cost, then a cost-based strategy becomes difficult. On the other hand, if the company is following a differentiation-based strategy, there is really no problem. If the suppliers increase the price of their raw materials, the company would increase its own price, the price of the product, right? The customer would pay that increased price because of customer loyalty, brand loyalty. So, this is an evaluation of the two major kinds of strategies, the cost strategy, differentiation strategy, and how they impact five forces. What is important to remember is that regardless of which strategy the firm is following, the most important thing is that all functions within the firm must uniformly follow that strategy. The firm, in other words, must not be stuck in the middle, where some parts of the firm follow one kind of strategy and some parts of the firm follow another kind of strategy. Being stuck in the middle is the best way, is a sure way to disaster. We've just looked at the cost strategy and the differentiation strategy. Now, the focus strategy, where the company decides that it will focus on one particular segment and not on the whole market. The focus strategy itself will either be a cost-based strategy or a differentiation-based strategy. Because, for instance, we talked about the Korean restaurant. That Korean restaurant is using a differentiation-based focus strategy because it's providing a unique product to the customer. In a similar fashion, you could have companies which are cost-based focus, which are following a cost-based focus strategy, right? So, every focus strategy is either cost-based or differentiation-based. What is the advantage of a focus strategy compared to the strategy where the company addresses all segments in the market? The primary advantage is that it can win brand loyalty because it caters to a particular niche, it caters to a particular segment of the market, therefore it wins brand loyalty. What is the major disadvantage of a focus strategy? The major disadvantage is that the firm following a focus strategy cannot enjoy economies of scale. Economies of scale requires that the firm manufactures and markets a large number of products, because only when the number of products is large will the cost per unit come down. In this case, because the company is focusing on one particular segment of the market, therefore necessarily it will not enjoy economies of scale, and it will therefore have a disadvantage in terms of its basic cost.